Scientists are mourning the loss of a 14-year-old named George. George was a snail, a Hawaiian tree snail to be exact, and the last member of an entire species. That joins hundreds of others that have gone extinct over the past few decades. Joining us this morning is scientist and good friend of the show, Dan Riskin. Dan, thanks for being here.
Yeah, good morning.
So why is it such a big deal that George, the last of his kind, is gone?
This is this thing that comes up. A lot of the extinctions that happen are species that people maybe weren't even on their radar. This, if you're a snail person, you knew about George because he was from a species that was the first species of snail that was ever described from the Hawaiian Islands. So when people first got there, it's the first one that greeted them, and we've killed them all. And snails need a second look. So what I've done is I've brought in some snail shells. I want to show you this thing about snail shells that will make you think about snails a little bit differently, give them a little more appreciation. So anytime you have a snail shell in your house or on a beach, you find a snail, the snail can even still be in it. But even if it's not, you pick up the snail shell and you hold it with the pointy part up and the opening facing toward you.
Okay.
And if you look, it's not symmetrical, right? Well, the opening is on the right. Okay? So this is a right-handed snail.
Okay.
Okay? Let's look at this one.
Yeah.
Oh, the opening, again, is on the right.
Okay.
It's a right-handed snail. This one, it's a little bit of a different shape, but the opening is on the right.
Okay, and what is the point of knowing this?
Well, the point of knowing this is that left-handed snails do exist, but they're super rare.
Okay.
And so anytime you're looking at a snail or a snail shell, check it, and if it's left-handed, get it on Instagram.
Can I just ask a follow-up?
Sure.
Do snails have hands?
No, okay, so if a scientist is talking, but they don't say right-handed, left-handed, they say dextral and sinistral.
Gotcha.
If you want to be real nerdy.
Sinistral?
Yeah, well, that's
Sounds like a bad guy in a Marvel movie.
That's where it comes from. Sinister people are left-handed.
No, we are not.
Yeah, that is how it works.
Internet challenge.
Well, I'm telling you, that's the etymology of that. But anyway, so now that you know that snails have a right-handed and left-handed, you might ask, why is the right-handed? Well, here's the thing. Snails have male and female parts. Even George was a hermaphrodite, so could have had a female name, could be Georgia. But when snails mate, a right-handed fits really nicely with a right-handed.
Okay, yeah.
And since almost all of them are right-handed, if you're born a left-handed snail, it's really hard to mate. And so you don't end up having very many babies, and so then left-handed stays really rare. And so when you find a left-handed snail, like the odds are stacked against this poor thing, but they're out there.
Yeah.
And so anytime you're looking at snails, you got to check and see if they're right-handed or left-handed.
Okay, sorry, we only have a few seconds left because it's an uphill battle here for snails in Hawaii.
Right.
752 snail species identified there. They're now saying that 60 to 90% of them gone.
Yeah.
What's the reason for it? What could be the impact of these snails disappearing?
Yeah, I mean, I get hung up on trying to make people love snails so that everybody will appreciate them.
They're delicious.
But they are delicious, but they serve an ecological role. And so people introduced an invasive snail from Africa to the Hawaiian Islands. That caused problems. So then in the 50s, they brought over a Florida snail called the rosy wolf snail to eat the African snail, but it ate that and started eating everybody else. And now that's the main problem. That's what's driving the extinction. But it's not just snails in Hawaii. You can't see a native songbird in Hawaii unless you're on the top of a mountain. Everything along, like if you're down by the beach and you see a songbird, it's not native. So Hawaii's had a tough time, and this is just sort of a canary in the coal mine, so to speak.
Dan Riskin, thank you so much for being here today. Left-handed, right-handed snails, who knew? Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.